I'm Sarah Reeves, and I've been with the Colorado State Police for 9 years. Most people think highway patrol officers just issue speeding tickets and help stranded drivers, and yes, that is a big part of our job. But sometimes you encounter different cases that stay with you long after your shift ends, cases that make you wonder what really happens on those long, empty roads. This story starts on March 15th, 2021. With what seemed like a routine call. A trucker named Dale Morrison had pulled into the way station off Interstate 70 near the town of Limon, which is basically the middle of nowhere between Denver and the Kansas border. He was visibly shaken when the station operator called it in, said the guy looked like he'd seen a ghost and was refusing to get back in his truck. I was about 20 minutes away finishing up paperwork on a fender bender near Genoa, so I took the call. When I pulled into the weigh station, Morrison was sitting on a concrete barrier near the scales, smoking a cigarette with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. He was maybe 55, weathered face, the kind of guy who'd been driving trucks since before GPS existed. "Mr. Morrison," I said, approaching slowly, "I'm Deputy Reeves. The operator said you were having some trouble." He looked up at me, and I saw genuine fear in his eyes. Not the nervous fear of someone who's done something wrong, but the primal fear of someone who's encountered something they can't explain. "My radio," he said, voice rough. "Something got into my radio." I glanced at his rig, a standard 18-wheeler hauling grain. "Your CB radio?" "No, my FM radio. I was listening to a country station out of Denver, just trying to stay awake for the last push to Kansas. Then the station cut out and this voice came on." He took a long drag on his cigarette. A woman's voice, clear as day. She said, "You're going the wrong way. Turn around. Go back east." I pulled out my notepad, trying to keep my expression neutral. Could it have been a DJ? Some kind of prank show? "That's what I thought at first," Morrison said. "So I changed the station. Found a classic rock station. 5 minutes later, same thing. Station cuts out, same voice, same message. 'You're going the wrong way. Turn around.' So I tried AM. Found a talk radio show. Same damn thing happened. Deputy, I went through every station, AM and FM. And every single one of them got interrupted by that voice." "What did you do?" "I turned the radio off," he said. "But then it came through the CB. I wasn't even transmitting, just had it on to listen for traffic reports. And that voice came through. Same words, same tone. 'You're going the wrong way.'" He looked at me, and I could see he was waiting for me to dismiss him, to tell him he was crazy. "I've been driving for 32 years, Deputy. I've driven through every state in the lower 48. I've never experienced anything like this." I took down his statement, got his contact information, and told him I'd look into it. He seemed relieved just to have told someone. Like saying it out loud made it more real and less like he was losing his mind. He eventually got back in his truck and headed west toward Kansas, though I noticed he kept checking his mirrors like something might be following him. I figured it was some kind of interference, maybe a pirate radio station or some teenager with a ham radio playing pranks. But I filed the report anyway, because that's what you do. You document the weird stuff, even when you think it's probably nothing. 3 days later, I got another call. This time it was a family from Ohio driving west on I-70 in a minivan, heading to Denver for a ski vacation. They'd pulled over at the Genoa exit, and the father, Richard Parker, flagged down a passing patrol unit. The officer who responded called me because of my previous report. I met the Parker family at a gas station. Richard, his wife Amanda, and their 2 teenage daughters. The daughters looked bored and annoyed, typical teenagers forced to be part of their parents' drama. But Amanda looked genuinely unsettled. "Tell me what happened," I said, after getting everyone situated at a picnic table outside the gas station. "We were listening to an audiobook," Amanda said. "We'd been on the road for about 6 hours, somewhere between Lyman and here. The book was playing through our car's Bluetooth, connected to my phone. Then it just stopped. The connection didn't drop. The phone didn't die. The book just stopped mid-sentence. And then," I prompted. Richard took over. Then a voice came through the speakers. A woman. She sounded calm, not threatening or anything, but her message was weird. She said, "You're going the wrong way. Your family shouldn't be heading west. Turn around while you still can." One of the daughters, the older one, rolled her eyes. "It was probably just some weird ad or a hacked signal or something." "That's what I thought," Richard said. So I disconnected the Bluetooth and turned on the radio instead. Found a pop music station. About 10 minutes later, the same thing happened. Music cut out, same voice, same message. "Wrong way. Turn around." "Did you turn around?" I asked. They looked at each other. "No," Amanda said. "But we're thinking about it. Deputy, this is going to sound crazy, but that voice knew we were a family. She specifically said your family." "How would a random radio signal know that?" I didn't have a good answer. I took their statement, gave them my card, told them to call if anything else happened. They continued west to Denver, though Amanda kept looking back east like she was reconsidering the whole trip. That's when I started to realize this might be more than isolated incidents. I went back to the station and started searching through recent reports, looking for anything similar. What I found made my skin crawl. Over the past 2 months, there had been 17 reports of unusual radio interference on I-70 westbound. 17 different people, all traveling west, all reporting the same thing, a woman's voice interrupting their radio, telling them they were going the wrong way, telling them to turn around. None of the reports had been connected because they'd been filed by different officers in different jurisdictions. Some were marked as equipment malfunction, others as possible pranks. One was even filed under mental health concern. But when I mapped them out, a pattern emerged. Every single report happened on I-70 westbound between Lyman and the Kansas border, roughly a 60-mile stretch of highway. And every single one happened between the hours of 8 p.m. and 4 a.m. I called the Colorado Department of Transportation to see if they had any record of radio interference in that area. The engineer I spoke with, a guy named Tom Hendricks, was skeptical but helpful. "We haven't had any reports of interference on that stretch," he said. "And honestly, it doesn't make much sense. Radio signals don't target specific directions. If there was a pirate station or some kind of equipment malfunction causing interference, it would affect traffic in both directions." "But all my reports are westbound only," I said. "Then it's not a standard interference issue," Tom said. "Could be someone with a directional transmitter, but that would require pretty sophisticated equipment and a specific reason to target westbound traffic. Why would someone do that?" That was the question that kept me up that night. Why westbound? Why that specific stretch of highway? And most importantly, who was the woman behind the voice? I decided to investigate further. On March 22nd, I drove the stretch of I-70 westbound from Lyman to the Kansas border during the evening, radio scanning through all frequencies, CB radio on, recorder running. For the first hour, nothing unusual, just standard radio stations, truckers chatting on CB about traffic conditions and truck stops, the occasional burst of static. Then, at 9:47 p.m., right around mile marker 412, my radio cut out. I'd been listening to a news station out of Denver, and it just stopped mid-sentence. For about 5 seconds, there was complete silence, not even static. Then she spoke. "You're going the wrong way." The voice was clear, feminine, calm, not threatening, almost concerned, like someone trying to give you helpful directions. "Turn around. Go back east, before it's too late." Then my radio resumed the news broadcast exactly where it had left off, like nothing had happened. But my CB radio crackled to life immediately after. "Wrong way," the same voice said through the CB. "Why do they always keep going west?" I grabbed the CB handset. "This is Colorado State Patrol. Identify yourself." "Who is this?" Static. Then, "Someone who's trying to help. Someone who knows what's waiting out west. Turn around, Deputy Reeves." My blood went cold. She knew my name. She knew I was a deputy. "How do you know who I am?" I demanded. "I can see your patrol car. I can see you driving. You're at mile marker 413 now, still going west. Still going the wrong way." I looked around frantically. There were no other vehicles visible in either direction. The highway was empty, just darkness and the white lines illuminated by my headlights. "Where are you?" I asked. "Everywhere on this road. Nowhere you can reach. I've been here for 7 years, trying to warn people. Most of them don't listen. They keep going west. They shouldn't." "Warn them about what?" Static again, longer this time. Then, "The crossing. Mile marker 438. When the fog comes, they cross over and they don't come back. Turn around, deputy, before you reach the crossing." The transmission cut off. I tried to respond, but got only static. My regular radio remained functional, stations coming through clearly. But the voice didn't return. I kept driving west because that's what you do when you're investigating something. You don't turn back just because something scares you. I marked mile marker 438 in my notes. That was about 25 miles ahead, right near the Kansas border. At 10:15 p.m., I reached mile marker 438. It looked like every other mile marker on that stretch of highway. A small green reflective sign on a post. Nothing special about it. The area was flat plains, no trees, no buildings, just grassland stretching out in all directions. There was no fog, just clear night air, and stars overhead. I pulled onto the shoulder and got out, flashlight in hand. The wind was strong out here, nothing to block it, carrying the smell of dry grass and dirt. I walked around the mile marker, examining it closely. Nothing unusual. Standard state highway department issue, slightly weathered but intact. Then I noticed something odd. About 50 feet off the highway, barely visible in the darkness, was what looked like a pull-off area or an old access road. I walked toward it, flashlight beam cutting through the night. It was an abandoned rest area. Not marked on any current maps, completely overgrown with weeds, the parking lot cracked and broken. There was an old concrete building, probably former restrooms, with the roof partially collapsed. And in the parking lot, half hidden by tall grass, was a car. I approached carefully, hand on my weapon. The car was a Toyota Camry, silver, covered in dust and dirt. The license plate was from Colorado. I ran it through my radio, calling in to dispatch. "Dispatch, this is Unit 34. I'm at mile marker 438 westbound, Old Rest area. I've got an abandoned vehicle, Colorado plates, David Frank Charles 3782. Can you run it?" "Copy that, Unit 34. Stand by." I waited, circling the vehicle. The windows were dirty but intact. I shined my flashlight inside. The interior looked undisturbed, no signs of struggle. But there was a purse on the passenger seat and a phone in the center console. "Unit 34, that plate comes back to a 2015 Toyota Camry, registered to Elizabeth Carver, female, age 32, address in Aurora. Vehicle was reported missing on April 8th, 2014, 7 years ago." 7 years. The same time frame the voice had mentioned. Someone who's been here for 7 years. Dispatch, I need a tow truck and a forensics team out here and pull the missing person report on Elizabeth Carver. Copy that. Everything okay out there, Sarah? I looked at the abandoned car at the dark rest area at mile marker 438, barely visible in the distance. Yeah, I said, but I think I just found something big. While I waited for the forensics team, I searched the rest area more thoroughly. The old building was too dangerous to enter fully, but I could see through the broken windows. Graffiti on the walls, broken fixtures, the usual decay of an abandoned roadside facility. But on one wall, someone had spray-painted a message in large red letters, "Turn back, don't go west." And underneath it, in smaller letters, "We tried to warn them." The forensics team arrived around midnight. They processed the vehicle, retrieved the purse and phone, documented everything. The lead investigator, Detective Marcus Randall, was someone I'd worked with before on a multi-vehicle accident case. "This is the Carver vehicle?" he asked, looking at the car. "According to the plates. She went missing 7 years ago. And you just happened to find it tonight?" I hesitated. "How do you explain that a ghost voice on the radio led you to a missing person's car?" "I was investigating reports of unusual radio interference in this area. Thought I'd check out this old rest area." Marcus gave me a look that said he knew there was more to the story, but he didn't push. "The phone's dead, obviously. We'll get it to the lab, see if there's anything recoverable. The purse has her ID, credit cards, about $40 in cash. No signs of foul play in or around the vehicle." "So she just abandoned her car and walked away? Or someone gave her a ride," Marcus said. "Or something else happened that we haven't figured out yet. We'll tow it in, process it thoroughly. You did good work finding this, Sarah." After they left, I sat in my patrol car at mile marker 438 and waited. If the voice came back, I had questions. I kept my radio on, scanning through frequencies, CB active. For 2 hours, nothing but normal traffic. Then at 2:47 a.m., my radio cut out again. Complete silence. Then, "You found Elizabeth's car." "Yes," I said aloud, knowing somehow she could hear me. "Who are you? Are you Elizabeth Carver?" I was. 7 years ago. Now I'm just a voice trying to save others from making the same mistake I did." "What mistake? What happened to you?" "I was driving west, late at night, tired. I should have stopped earlier, should have gotten a hotel room in Lyman, but I thought I could make it to Kansas. I was wrong. The fog came out of nowhere, thick and white. I couldn't see anything. I pulled into this rest area to wait it out. And then, the fog didn't lift, it got thicker, and I saw lights in it, moving lights that didn't make sense. I got scared. I got out of my car and started walking, trying to find the highway. But the fog was so thick, and the lights kept moving, and I got turned around. I walked and walked. And when the fog finally cleared, I wasn't anywhere near the highway. I was somewhere else. Somewhere wrong. Where? Static. Then quieter. I don't know, but I couldn't get back. I tried. I've been trying for 7 years. And I've watched others make the same mistake, driving west into the fog, pulling over, walking into it, not coming back. So I started trying to warn people, turn around, go back east, don't drive into the fog. How many people have you warned? Hundreds. Most don't listen. They think I'm a prank or a malfunction. They keep driving west. Some of them make it through, but some don't. Some pull over when the fog comes, and they never leave. Elizabeth, we can help you. Tell me where you are." "I don't know where I am. That's the problem. I'm nowhere and everywhere on this road. I'm in the fog. I'm in the spaces between signals. I'm trying to get back, but I don't know how." What about the others, the ones who didn't come back? Long silence, then, they're here too. In the fog. We're all trying to warn people now, all trying to save them from crossing over. But most people don't believe in voices on the radio. Most people keep driving west. My radio resumed normal programming. I tried to call back, switching frequencies, trying the CB, but there was no response. I sat there until dawn, watching mile marker 438, waiting for fog that never came. When the sun rose, I drove back to the station and started pulling every missing person report connected to I-70 westbound for the past 15 years. What I found kept me awake for the next 3 days. The missing person reports painted a disturbing picture. Over the past 15 years, 23 people had disappeared along I-70 westbound between Lyman and the Kansas border. 23 people who'd simply vanished, leaving behind vehicles, belongings, sometimes even running engines. The cases had never been connected because they fell under different jurisdictions, different investigators, different years. But when you laid them out chronologically and geographically, the pattern was unmistakable. I spread the reports across my desk at home, unable to sleep, unable to stop looking at the faces staring back at me from driver's license photos and family snapshots. Elizabeth Carver was the 8th disappearance, April 2014, but the first one dated back to December 2006. James Patterson, age 41, truck driver from Indiana. His semi was found abandoned at mile marker 436, engine still running, driver's door open. No signs of struggle, no blood, no indication of where he'd gone. The Highway Patrol report noted unusual weather conditions, heavy fog at time of discovery. Fog. That word appeared in nearly every report. Witnesses describing sudden thick fog, or fog that came out of nowhere, or fog so dense you couldn't see your own headlights. And every disappearance happened between 8 p.m. and 4 a.m., the same time frame when people reported hearing the voice. I called Detective Randall the next morning. "Marcus, I need you to look at something." We met at a coffee shop in Lyman, away from the station, where too many ears might overhear what I was about to suggest. I showed him the reports, explained the pattern, told him about my conversation with the voice that claimed to be Elizabeth Carver. Marcus listened without interrupting, his expression growing more serious with each detail. When I finished, he sat back and rubbed his face with both hands. "Sarah, you're talking about 23 missing persons cases spanning 15 years. You're suggesting they're all connected. And you're saying a voice on the radio led you to evidence. I know how it sounds. It sounds impossible. It also sounds like you might be onto something." He pulled out his phone and started making notes. "I can quietly pull files on these cases, see if there are any other connections we've missed. But Sarah, if you're right, if there's something at mile marker 438 that's causing people to disappear, we need to figure out what it is before anyone else goes missing." "I think it's the fog," I said. "Every report mentions fog. And Elizabeth, the voice, she said people pull over when the fog comes, they walk into it, and they don't come back. Fog doesn't make people disappear. Normal fog doesn't." Marcus looked at me for a long moment. "You think there's something supernatural going on? I think there's something we don't understand going on. Whether that's supernatural or scientific or something else, I don't know. But people are vanishing, Marcus. 23 people that we know of, maybe more that were never reported. And a woman who disappeared 7 years ago is somehow communicating through radio signals, trying to warn others not to make the same mistake she did." "Okay," Marcus said, making a decision. "Here's what we do. I'll work the official investigation angle, pulling files, looking for forensic connections. You keep monitoring the radio interference, document everything you hear, and we both need to figure out what triggers this fog. If we can predict when it appears, maybe we can prevent more disappearances. Over the next 2 weeks, I drove that stretch of I-70 westbound every night, radio scanning, CB active, recorder running constantly. Some nights were quiet, just normal radio traffic, and the occasional trucker checking in. But other nights, the voice came through. Sometimes it was Elizabeth, her voice calm and patient, repeating the same warning. Turn around. Go back east. Don't drive into the fog. But other nights, I heard different voices. A man's voice, deep and tired. I shouldn't have stopped. Should have kept driving. Now I can't find the road. A younger woman, frightened. Where is everyone? I can see lights, but no people. Someone help me. An elderly man, confused. My wife is waiting for me in Kansas. How do I get back to the highway? They were all lost, all trapped somewhere they couldn't escape from, all trying to warn the living not to follow them. I documented everything, recorded every transmission, noted the exact locations and times. Marcus was doing his part too, pulling cold case files, interviewing families of the missing, looking for anything that might explain what was happening. We'd meet every few days to compare notes, and each time the picture got clearer and more disturbing. I talked to James Patterson's brother, Marcus told me one afternoon. He's the first disappearance, the truck driver from 2006. His brother told me something interesting. James called him about an hour before he disappeared. Said he was pulling over because a heavy fog, said he'd wait it out and call back when he got moving again. But he never called back. When Highway Patrol found his truck, the fog had cleared and James was gone. Did his brother try calling him back? Multiple times. The phone went straight to voicemail. But here's the weird part. The phone was still in the truck when they found it. Battery dead, but it was there. So who was James calling from? I thought about Elizabeth's voice coming through my radio, through my CB, through frequencies that shouldn't carry human voices. Maybe he wasn't calling from anywhere. Maybe he was already gone and trying to reach back. Marcus pulled out another file. I've got similar stories from 3 other families. Loved ones getting calls or texts right before they disappeared, saying they'd pulled over, saying they'd wait out the fog. Then nothing. And in each case, the phone was found in the abandoned vehicle. They're calling for help, I said, trying to reach someone who can hear them, but they can't get through, not to the living, so they use the radios instead. That's a hell of a theory. You got a better one? He didn't. We kept investigating, kept documenting, kept trying to understand the mechanics of what was happening. And I kept driving that stretch of highway every night, waiting for the fog. On April 6th, 3 weeks after I'd found Elizabeth's car, I finally saw it. I was westbound at mile marker 420 around 10:30 p.m. when the air suddenly changed. The temperature dropped noticeably, and I could see my breath fogging inside the patrol car, even though the heater was running. Then, in my headlights, I saw it forming. The fog came up from the ground rather than down from the sky. Tendrils of white mist rising from the pavement and the grasslands on either side of the highway. Within seconds, it was thick enough that I had to slow to a crawl. Within a minute, I couldn't see more than 10 feet ahead. My radio cut out immediately. Complete silence. Not even static. Then Elizabeth's voice came through, urgent in a way I'd never heard before. Sarah, turn around right now. Don't go any farther west. The fog is here. This is what I was warning you about. I grabbed my CB handset. Elizabeth, I need to understand what's happening. What is this fog? Where does it come from? I don't know where it comes from. I just know what it does. It opens something, a gap, a crossing point, whatever you want to call it. You see things in the fog that shouldn't be there. Lights that move wrong. Shapes that aren't quite right. And if you stop, if you get out of your car and walk into it, you cross over. You end up somewhere else. Somewhere you can't get back from. Where did you end up? It looks like the highway, but it's not. Everything's slightly wrong. The road goes on forever, but never leads anywhere. There are others here, all of us trying to find our way back. We can see the real highway sometimes through the fog, like looking through a dirty window. We can hear radios, CB signals, anything broadcasting through the air. That's how we try to communicate. That's how we try to warn people. The fog was getting thicker. I could barely see my own hood now. And in the fog, I started seeing what Elizabeth meant. Lights, but not from vehicles. They moved vertically instead of horizontally. Floating, up and down rather than following the road. And shapes. Human-shaped, but wrong proportions. Too tall or too thin. Moving through the fog alongside the highway. I see them, I said, trying to keep the fear out of my voice. I see the lights and the shapes. Don't stop, Elizabeth urged. Don't get out of your car. Keep driving. Even if you can't see, the fog will end. It always ends, eventually. But if you stop, if you step into it, you'll end up like us. How do I help you? How do I get you back? I don't think you can. We've been trying for years. Some of us have been here since the beginning, since whatever this is first opened. We're stuck, Sarah. All we can do is try to stop others from making the same mistake. I kept driving slowly through the fog, hands gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles were white. The shapes moved closer to my car, and I could almost make out features now. Faces pale and indistinct. Hands reaching toward my windows. Mouths open like they were calling out, but I couldn't hear anything except Elizabeth's voice on the radio. They can see you, Elizabeth said. The ones trapped here. They're drawn to living people. Don't look at them directly. Don't acknowledge them. Just keep driving. I forced my eyes forward, focusing on the faint glow of my headlights reflecting off the fog. The shapes pressed closer, and I could hear faint scratching sounds on the outside of my car, like fingernails on metal. Almost through, Elizabeth said. Just a little farther. You're doing good, Sarah. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the fog lifted. One moment I was surrounded by white mist and strange shapes. The next I was driving on clear highway under a star-filled sky. I pulled over immediately, shaking, and checked my surroundings. Mile marker 442. I'd driven through about 4 miles of fog. You made it, Elizabeth's voice said, and I could hear relief in it. You're the first person I've warned who actually listened and kept driving. Most people panic, they stop, they get out, and then they're gone. Elizabeth, there has to be a way to close this. To stop the fog from appearing. To get you and the others back. If there is, we haven't found it. We've been trying, all of us, but we're stuck on the wrong side. We need someone on your side, someone living, to figure out how to close the crossing. Then that's what I'm going to do. Over the next few days, I researched everything I could find about I-70's history in that area. I talked to old-timers who remembered when the highway was first built, interviewed former construction workers, dug through archives at the local historical society. What I found was interesting. The stretch of highway where the fog appeared, between mile markers 420 and 445, had been built in 1968. But before the highway was there, the area had a dark history. In the 1880s, during the westward expansion, this area was a common route for wagon trains heading to California. According to historical records, multiple wagon trains disappeared in this area, simply vanishing between landmarks. One historical account from 1884 described a wagon train of 32 people that was seen passing through on their way west. They never reached the next settlement. Search parties found some of their belongings scattered across the plains, but no bodies, no signs of what happened to them. And the accounts always mentioned fog. Unusual fog that came suddenly and didn't behave like normal weather patterns. I brought this information to Marcus. Whatever's happening now has been happening for over 100 years, maybe longer. The highway didn't create it. It just built right through it. So what do? We can't exactly shut down a major interstate highway because of historical disappearances and ghost stories. No, but we can warn people. We can monitor weather patterns, predict when the fog is most likely to appear, and put out alerts. Alerts saying what? Don't drive west when it's foggy because you might end up in another dimension? Sarah, no one's going to take that seriously. He was right, but I couldn't just do nothing. I started a blog, posting anonymously, documenting the phenomenon. I called it the Westbound Warning, and laid out all the evidence I'd gathered. The missing persons cases, the historical disappearances, the reports of unusual radio interference. I didn't mention Elizabeth by name or my own involvement, but I made it clear that something dangerous was happening on that stretch of highway. The blog got some attention, mostly from paranormal enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists. But a few people took it seriously. I started getting emails from travelers who'd experienced the fog, who'd heard the voices on their radios, who'd turned around before it was too late. Each one felt like a small victory. But then, on April 24th, someone didn't listen. I got the call at 3 a.m. A vehicle had been found abandoned at mile marker 438, the old rest area where I'd found Elizabeth's car, engine running, driver's door open. The driver, a woman named Rebecca Torres, age 28, traveling from Colorado Springs to visit family in Kansas. Her cell phone was in the car, her purse was in the car, but Rebecca was gone. I arrived on scene as the sun was coming up. The fog had long since cleared, leaving no trace of what had happened. I walked the area, flashlight in hand, even though it was getting light, searching for any sign of Rebecca. My radio crackled to life. Sarah? It was Elizabeth, but her voice was different now, sadder. There's another one. Rebecca, she pulled over when the fog came. She was scared. She tried to call 911, but her phone didn't work. So she got out, started walking toward the highway to flag someone down, but the fog was too thick. She got turned around, crossed over. Where is she now? With us, confused, scared, asking how to get back. We're trying to help her understand, but it's hard. We were all like that at first. I stood at the edge of the old rest area, looking out at the highway, at mile marker 438, barely visible in the morning light. 24 people now, 24 souls, lost in whatever existed in that fog. This has to stop, I said. I know, Elizabeth replied, but we don't know how to stop it. We can only warn people and hope that more of them listen than don't. That night, I drove out to mile marker 438 again. I parked in the old rest area right where Elizabeth's car had been found and waited. Around midnight, my radio crackled. Sarah, what are you doing? You shouldn't be here. I need to understand more. I need to see if there's a way to close this, to stop the fog from taking more people, and if there isn't, I need to figure out how to get you all back. You can't get us back from your side. We've tried everything. Then maybe I need to come to your side. No! Elizabeth's voice was sharp, almost panicked. Sarah, don't even think about it. If you cross over, you'll be trapped like us. You won't be able to help anyone. Stay where you are. Stay alive. Keep warning people. That's the only thing that helps. I sat there in my patrol car, staring at the empty rest area, at the dark highway beyond, and I made a decision. The decision I made that night wasn't to cross over into the fog. I wasn't ready to abandon the living world, and Elizabeth was right. I could do more good from this side. But I was done with passive observation. I needed to find a way to close the crossing permanently. I called Marcus the next morning. I need access to the original construction records for I-70, specifically mile markers 420 through 445 and geological surveys of the area. What are you looking for? Something about this place makes the crossing possible. It's been here for over 100 years. I need to understand why. I spent the next week buried in research. The Colorado Department of Transportation archives revealed something interesting. A memo from July 1967 before construction began. The project manager noted unusual equipment malfunctions during surveys. Compasses spinning randomly. Electronic equipment failing. Survey markers disappearing overnight. He'd recommended rerouting the highway, but the recommendation was overruled due to cost. I also found construction incident reports. 3 workers had vanished during the project, all during night shifts. One foreman's report noted, heavy fog appeared around 2 a.m. Jenkins went to check the markers and never came back. Fog cleared at dawn. No sign of him. This area had been swallowing people for centuries. I brought this to Dr. Patricia Moreno, a professor of atmospheric physics at Colorado State University. When I explained the unusual fog patterns and historical disappearances, she listened carefully. What you're describing sounds like a localized phenomenon, but not natural, she said. There's a concept called thin places, locations where the barrier between realities is weaker. It's mostly folklore, but if such places existed, they'd manifest exactly as you're describing. Unusual weather, equipment malfunctions, disappearances. How would you close a thin place? Pure speculation, but if it's geologically anchored, you might disrupt it by altering the geological features, or use electromagnetic interference, but honestly, I don't think we have the technology to safely interact with it. That night, I went back to mile marker 438 with equipment, a compass, recorder, and an electromagnetic field detector. At 11:47 p.m., the fog began to rise. My radio crackled. Sarah, you need to leave. Not yet, Elizabeth. I'm trying to understand this. There's nothing to understand. It just is. It's always been here. When you crossed over, what did you feel? She paused. Like falling and standing still at the same time? The world tilted and I was suddenly somewhere else, and there's a pull, always pulling west, like something deeper in wants us to keep moving away from the crossing. An idea formed. What if we could strengthen the barrier, make it harder for people to cross? But if you block it, we'll be trapped here forever. I hadn't thought of that. Would you rather stay trapped with the possibility of warning others or stop anyone else from crossing even if you can never return? Over the next hour, I spoke with 14 different voices through the radio. They were unanimous. Close the crossing. stop others from being trapped. Even if it means you can never get home? I asked. This is our home now, James Patterson said. Close it, Deputy. Do whatever you have to do. I couldn't do this through official channels, so I convinced the Colorado Department of Transportation that mile marker 438 needed geological stabilization. We needed to drive foundation pylons deep into the earth, I told them, to prevent ground instability. The real purpose was different. Based on Dr. Moreno's theories, I believe driving metal pylons through the geological features might strengthen the barrier. During the 3 weeks it took to get approval, 2 more people disappeared. David Park and a retired couple named the Harrisons. Their confused voices denamed the chorus on the radio. On May 18th, the construction crew drove 4 massive steel pylons, 50 feet into the ground, around mile marker 438. The foreman complained about unusual resistance, about equipment acting up, but they completed the work. That night I waited. At 11:47 p.m. the fog began to rise, but it was different. Thinner, less dense, hovering above the pavement rather than rising from below. My radio crackled. Sarah? Elizabeth's voice was faint, breaking up with static. Something's changed. The crossing point isn't as strong. What did you do? We drove pylons into the ground, trying to disrupt the geological anchor. It's working. The pull west is weaker. The fog on our side is thinning. For 2 weeks, I monitored the site every night. The fog still appeared occasionally, but was always brief and thin. My EMF readings had dropped significantly. Then on June 3rd, multiple voices spoke at once through my radio. Sarah, the fog is thinning. We can see the highway clearly now, and the pull west has reversed. It's pulling us back east, back toward the crossing. We're going to try walking back. Over the next hour, I listened as they described their journey through thinning fog. One by one, their voices cut off, like they'd moved beyond range. I waited in the darkness, hoping. At 1:47 a.m., my headlights caught movement, a figure walking down the westbound lane. As I got closer, I saw her clearly. Elizabeth Carver, 7 years older, wearing the same clothes she'd disappeared in, exhausted, but real. Deputy Reeves? Sarah, is it really you? It's really me. You made it back. Over the next 3 hours, 6 more people emerged from the fog. James Patterson, Linda Kowalski, the Harrisons. 2 others I'd spoken with. They were disoriented, dehydrated, but alive. Not everyone made it back. 18 had been trapped, but only 7 returned. The others, including Rebecca Torres and David Park, were either too far from the crossing when it weakened or had gone too far west and couldn't find their way back in time. The crossing is closed now, Elizabeth told me later. Or at least, harder to cross. You saved people, Sarah. Maybe not all of us, but you stopped more from being trapped. The 7 who returned had to rebuild their lives. 7 years lost for Elizabeth, 15 for James Patterson. The psychological impact was severe, but they were home. I kept monitoring mile marker 438. The fog still appears occasionally, but never as thick. I haven't heard the voices on the radio since that night. Either the crossing is closed enough that they can't communicate, or those who could return have done so, and the others have moved too far to reach back. Marcus closed the missing persons cases for the 7 who returned, but 17 remain open. Families still wondering, still hoping. The Colorado Department of Transportation never understood why I insisted on the geological project. But accidents in that section have decreased significantly. No more abandoned cars. No more people disappearing into the night. I still drive I-70 westbound every few weeks at night. Sometimes I see thin mist rising from the pavement, but it never gets thick. Sometimes my radio crackles with static that almost sounds like voices.